All right, Quentin Grimes, waiting on you, my man. Finding out what's going on.
TikTok.
TikTok, buddy. That made me think of a funny video from one of the streamers that I don't even follow, but it pops up on my feed for some reason. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast. It's still free agency frenzy as we await the decision on Quentin Grimes. It's all presented by our good friends from Rothman Orthopedics. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more. Book your appointment today. Alongside, the full team is here today. Derek Bodner, Kyle Newbeck, I'm Devon Givens. Bree is
no
still...
guest coaches in the studio.
No
Devon.
guest coaches in the studio. We'll get to that a little bit later in news and notes. We'll talk about Eric Gordon. We'll get Kyle's Day 1 Summer League notes from yesterday, Day 2 from Derek Bodner at the practice facility, and we'll discuss all of that as we go along with you for this hour here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. But first, we do have to tell you, as we start off, about Quentin Grimes. We'll get to that in just a second, but we have 2 days left for our $36 intro offer. Make your move to sign up.
Hurry it up!
$36 intro offer right now to become a diehard member at allphly.com. Right now, as I look at my page and I refresh it, I see Day 1 from Flyers free agency from Charlie O'Connor. I see top 3 Phillies prospects of the week there from Pat Egan. I see also another one from Gene Cabrera up from Pat Egan about him and the rest of the June's top 5 Phillies prospects. And I see the latest with Meet Hunter Salas from Kyle Newbeck, the Sixers' new priority two-way signing. That's all available to you right now at allphly.com. Also, the notebook from yesterday from Kyle Newbeck as well.
With some Point VJ Edgecombe news, perhaps?
Something that maybe one Baylor head coach gave us a little bit of a hat tip on when we had a conversation with him 2 weeks ago. So go sign up, allphly.com. Great intro offer, $36. Make your move right now. Only 2 days remaining for you to sign up to become part of our community. But Derek, here we are. Day 3. Technically, Day 3, 6 o'clock start, but Day 3 of free agency getting underway. And Quentin Grimes is still not signed. No news, no updates. The last we had heard, of course, was Tony Jones saying that from The Athletic that he was somewhere in that range of, hey, let me ask about $25 million a year.
I, too, would like $25 million.
I would, too. Yeah. You know, I would, too.
I would settle for less. I'll undercut the market here and say, if you give me less than $100 million, but more than, let's say, $75 million, I'm signing on the dotted line.
And as I say that, W. Chambers is right there in the chat saying $25 mil is too much. So
I agree.
Kyle agrees. Bree agrees. Derek, what's the holdup right now? When we brought up, Kyle, we brought it up yesterday. We also brought it up on the conversation that we had on Monday on the emergency pod and even on our 5 to 7 show. But bringing up the Nickeil Alexander-Walker number of 4 for 62 and the number that he got, using that as an example. What's the holdup, man? Where are the numbers that are holding him up right now based on what's going on around the association that's for him to still be sitting out there on Day 3 and we have no information at all?
I mean, I think sometimes when you get your hopes up, it's tough to accept reality and it takes a little bit of time. And look, I think he's going to try to find, exhaust every avenue to get as much leverage as he can. We talked about it a little bit yesterday where maybe that means threatening, whether or not he actually go through with it, but threatening, taking the qualifying offer and trying to hit free agency next year as an unrestricted free agent when there's more money instead of a restricted free agent this summer when there's less money. Maybe that means, trying to find a sign and trade partner who would be willing to take him on that 20 to 25, we'll just call it a range, $1 million contract. And he's probably going to try to turn over every rock to see if that money is out there. But I think if that money was out there, I'm not saying it would have been done by now, but you at least would have heard a rumbling of a sign and trade or a team interested. If their camp had any real indication that any team was willing to offer him $25 million per year, they leaked that so that then they can try to get a bidding war, or at least manufacture somebody. And again, maybe the Nets can move some money. I actually haven't looked at their exact cap situation, but maybe there's ways they can generate money. So maybe they're holding on to that hope as a way to still hold on to some leverage. I don't think it's there. I think he's going to have to come back, accept a $15 to $20 million deal, or have the appetite to go through a season playing on that qualifying offer if he really truly believes in himself. And you mentioned it yesterday because he did. Last fall he bet on himself. He ended up winning that bet in a big way. A lot of times when you win that initial bet, you are a little more emboldened to take a second bet. I don't think
That's why the casinos always stay
Yes,
in
they
business,
do.
by the way.
I don't think that money that he's seeking is out there this summer. I don't think it's going to be there in a sign and trade, although you never really know. We did just see some crazy stuff where Milwaukee is able to open up some cap space in a way that I don't think anybody really saw coming. But I don't think that money is going to be out there. I wasn't convinced it was going to be out there even if Brooklyn was interested, but now that they're maybe not off the market, at least have used their cap space in ways that suggest they're not pursuing Quentin Grimes, I think his options are either come back at a deal that he probably doesn't love or take that qualifying offer and risk it again.
Yeah. So I want to start with this and say, I don't pass any judgment on guys who feel I'm worth X amount of dollars. And at the start of the negotiating period, when free agency opens, I'm going to ask for a lot of money.
You don't start off being reasonable.
Yeah, you don't come into any negotiation saying, well, I just like a small 1.5% raise.
Right.
Like
I don't take just slightly under inflation. That would be great.
Yeah, exactly. I don't take any issue with Quentin Grimes and his representation coming into the start of free agency and asking for the sun, the moon, the stars, especially when the Sixers don't have options to bring in major talent through free agency, right? You could theoretically use the taxpayer mid-level and, get some guys on minimum signings that you feel are steals. We could talk through trade possibilities, and we already have and probably will the rest of this summer and the rest of, frankly, up until the trade deadline this year. So that you're in at least a decent position coming into free agency. But within probably 12 hours, 18 hours, maybe even less of free agency opening, it became abundantly clear that the cap space boogeyman that might have been lurking for one of these teams, if it was, Brooklyn was the big one, but there are teams like a Detroit, like a San Antonio that at least had options, right? If they had said, hey, I look at Quentin Grimes as, rising star, guy who really broke out, and I want to pay him XYZ, that you can at least use that to leverage the Sixers and put them in a tough spot. Well, all those options have dried up, right? Detroit made a bunch of moves. Brooklyn's big move was trading Cam Johnson for a first-round pick and Michael Porter Jr., who makes a good bit more money than Cam Johnson, so that ate into a lot of their cap space. Now, in theory, I believe they can get to still right around that $25 million number if they make some cuts on guys who have non-guaranteed numbers. But you have to cut several players and also look at it and say, what does Quentin Grimes being added to this team do for us in Brooklyn when we just drafted 7 point guards and are doing whatever the hell they're doing? So I think at this point, we are all, the Sixers included, everyone is just waiting for Grimes's ask and Grimes's agent's ask to reflect what the market is, right? To reflect the fact that there just isn't a lot of money out there. And if he decides, I want to bet on myself, I want to take it into next season where I'll have more options on the table, there are more teams with cap space, there are more interesting opportunities available to me, I'm not necessarily restricted by restrictive free agency, I don't think that would be a crazy move necessarily on his part, although I would say the Sixers are going to play a bunch of other guards this year, including one that's already been an all-star, one that was just a top 3 pick, and another that had a spectacular start to his career last year before injury. If you want to bet on yourself, cool. But I think the writing is on the wall here. I think the Sixers are willing to give him what they would feel is a fair market deal, not over the moon money, but something that is certainly an upgrade on what he's making and something that would allow him to make a bunch of money and also be a flippable contract in potential trade talks. I think that's where it's going to end up, but you can't force Quentin Grimes or the people around him to just flip a switch automatically and say, okay, those destinations are off the table. All of a sudden I want like half of what I'm asking for, right? That's not going to happen. So I think we're in for I don't want to say extended waiting period because that makes it sound like we're going to be here for months in bunkers, just like, oh my God, when's the Quentin Grimes news coming down? But it's going to take a bit from the look of things.
And Tarzan Knights, we'll get to this a little bit later on this particular person, but he says Omar Cooper might be Grimes' agent when it comes to all of this.
Wow, we're going to talk about him later. I don't think that's fair to Quentin Grimes or his agent, but
again, we'll get to him a little bit later. It's funny though. You also see it with Golden State, where Jonathan Kuminga has not yet have a resolution to his situation as a restricted free agent as well, where you don't know what's going on. Kyle, you were bringing up the Detroit moves because that's immediately where I went with the Duncan Robinson piece, and then also bringing in who did they sign as their other shooter? Karis LeVert, bringing in at those numbers. And looking at where things are with Quentin Grimes.
And those numbers were, I think it was 2 for 29 for LeVert. And Robinson was 3 for 48. So they're right in that bracket.
Exactly.
13 to 16 million ish.
So the conversation that we were having yesterday was, and including the Alexander Walker deal, was that since you weren't here, it was those guys. In Robinson's case, we know who he is. He's just a flat out shooter, and that's where his skill set is. They know what they're paying for. They've seen it. And they've seen it at the level of getting to the NBA Finals as well as the Eastern Conference Final multiple times. While he's had the right people around him, he's gotten it done. In the Karis LeVert situation, he just has a longer runway of a player where maybe that team feels comfortable giving him that 2 for 29 and feeling good about that decision. Alexander Walker, same thing. 2 back-to-back Western Conference Finals appearances where he has shown that he was a big part of them getting there and then performing on that stage. The issue that, while I agree with you, and we pointed this out exactly the same, ask for whatever you want, but at some point you have to come to the realization that you may not get that. While I think it might be real, not the 20 points that we saw that he was averaging down the stretch, close to 25 and putting up 44 and whatever number that he has as a career high, that I believe is real that he can play. He can score in this league. But I also believe that he can fit in the 4-guard rotation that they have and be a part of their 7-man rotation where he's a big part of it. The only issue is that it's tough to have a disagreement with people who say, yeah, but he did it with no expectation at that point where everybody was hurt. He was allowed to take all the shots because he was clearly the best player. How do we know that's going to translate? So while yes, he and his reps can use that. And we said it during the season, man, the price is going up. It's no longer at that $40 million mark that it was before. We knew it, but it was in that 60, close to 70 range, nowhere near a $100 million deal where you start off at 25. Ask for what you want, but it's nowhere near that. So that's where part of the, hey, let's look at it realistically. If you're not going to take the qualifying offer, my man, you're just not. I don't see a pathway, especially with Brooklyn spending the money the way that they did by going to get Michael Porter Jr. and picking up part of their cap and probably re-signing Cam Thomas as their own player. You don't have it there for you. So take that good deal or make that decision at 8.7. And by the way, those other players, once again, have done it in a spot where it was meaningful basketball for those basketball teams where, with all due respect to Quentin Grimes and his people, we haven't seen it yet. So while we think that might be someone that is very valuable in a playoff situation, we just haven't seen it yet. So while they're banking on it that you can do that, the fair number may be between 15, 17, maybe 15 and 18 for this one. So that's where I sit, and I still sit there, where I just think that $100 million or 25 or somewhere in that range, even when people were using the example of 20, and we would talk about it on the show, and we were asking what our cutoff numbers were back then, we were like, all right, yeah, 17, 18 is probably it for us here on the show. Not that we're making the decision for the Sixers or Quentin Grimes, or for us evaluating the player for what their situation looks like. That's just way too much. So for us to still be sitting here, and you guys did say it heading into free agency to make people aware, it was going to take a while. It wasn't going to happen on day one, and it certainly didn't happen on day two, where in day three, and we still don't have anything. That is something where I'm now looking at them and saying, all right, guys, what are you doing? Because we'll get to this later about where the Sixers roster stands at numbers-wise and where he just simply has an important role on this team should he decide to make the decision of coming back. And what is his ultimate goal? Because let's say if it was Brooklyn was still, if they were going to pay him, they were still telling you that it was about the future. Sixers are still trying to win right now, but they can also maybe see him as part of their future and or use him as a trade bait later on. I wonder how long we're now going to sit here and continue to wait with nothing really out there as of right now for Quentin Grimes.
Yeah, and look, I think the qualifying offer would be real risky for him because
agree.
of I can understand the mentality behind it, right? If you genuinely think you are worth, 25 million, whatever the number ends up being, that is the top line number, then you want to bet on yourself, that's fine. We have certainly seen that thought process play out for other guys, and it ultimately goes sideways, right? Like, there are guys that bet on that, and he bet on himself last year and it paid off. I think you got to you won the bet. Take the money that you won from the bet and enjoy it instead of like, we saw what happened with Nerlens Noel, right?
We saw what happens with Dennis Schroeder.
Dennis Schroeder is another great example, right? Those are guys who were given, lucrative offers after having, maybe not identical situations, but they're in spots where they come to a team, they play well, that team is willing to pay them. Maybe not all the money, but pay them good role player money, good like starting caliber player money. And they said, no, you know what? I'm going to roll one more year over
dice
and chase the, 100 plus million, 120 million. And then they end up on, now Dennis Schroeder now just got a nice
3 for
deal
45
years later, right?
Exactly.
But it took him a while. He was playing on these shorter term, smaller deals. And I can't sit here and I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen. I just think if you bet on yourself again this year, you are not in the same situation as you were in with the Sixers last year, right? Maybe you could get moved at the deadline and have a similar thing play out. But if you're just assuming you're going to be in Philadelphia all year, and I think you kind of have to assume that, you're then competing with like real organizational pillars for those opportunities to show your worth and do this and that. Your role is going to change because you're not going to have the same on-ball opportunities that you did last year. I think that both sides will eventually come together and they'll hammer something out. But who knows? We're not getting much intel on this right now.
Take the money you won from the bet and enjoy yourselves. We will find out if Kyle Neubeck follows his own advice next week in Vegas.
Listen, you saw me at a craps table.
Saw you for many hours at a craps table.
Last summer, make a bunch of money on a husband and wife, I think, who had a hot hand.
You never know.
The second that woman was done with her hot hand, I took all that money and walked away from the table. I am a firm believer in you make some money on a gamble, enjoy that money. That's the whole point of gambling in the first place.
So we might as well let everybody know. We teased it before that we are headed to Vegas next week. We'll be there Thursday and Friday through the weekend as well for the Sixers games. They play on Thursday and Saturday, so we'll be there for those particular games in Las Vegas.
Versus the Spurs and Hornets, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So Dylan Harper, hopefully, I know he's dealing with some kind of health issue right now. And then Con Knipple on Saturday. So those will be 2 fun ones.
And don't forget, they also start off the Utah schedule of the Utah Summer League on Saturday when they take on Ace Bailey and the Utah Jazz. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, next week.
For that one.
It's going to be a fun one, and we'll get into it all. We'll continue some Quentin Grimes conversation on the other side. Also, the Sixers did have a re-signing that we have yet to talk about. We'll give you that on the other side. Discuss it all right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. It's the Free Agency Frenzy presented by Rothman Orthopedics. And I need to talk to you about Cherry Hill Kia. If you are looking for a vehicle to make sure that you are safe in this summer as you're taking your family trips and you're looking for that new vehicle that could also stretch out for not only the winter, but a few years ahead. Also, Cherry Hill Kia is the place for you. Looking for those amazing deals and super low payments, KiaofCherryHill.com is the place to be. They're celebrating all month long of July, all summer, on their massive selection of over 450 new Kias to choose from. They have over 40 Tellurides, over 100 Sportages, and over 75 Celtos, and over 80 Souls as well, available to you at Cherry Hill Kia. So go ahead. I got to tell you, Kia is the hottest automotive brand in the country for a reason. 7 of their models received 2025 Car and Driver Editor's Choice Awards. That's amazing considering there were more than 450 models tested and only 20 models industry-wide received this award. You combine that with the best warranty in the game, in the automotive business at 10 years, 100-mile powertrain, and 5 years, 60,000-mile bumper-to-bumper offer here for us for you today. Stop in today, right now. Tell them PHLY sent you and receive a $100 restaurant.com gift card just for taking a test drive. That's all you have to do, or completing a trade appraisal. I know people buy Kias elsewhere, but I don't know why they do so. Drive home in your new Kia today, just minutes from all bridges, or available online 24/7 at KiaofCherryHill.com. All right, so I walked into my garage yesterday and it felt like a sauna.
I got to tell you, Devon, this Philadelphia heat, especially coming off a cool period, no joke.
All right, so here's what I did. I got like 10 bags of ice, and I made myself an ice bath to stay cool instead of turning on the AC.
But why wouldn't you just turn on your air conditioning?
Well, you know, I was trying to be energy efficient. You know, go green, go birds, right? And a little power dribble. Make sure I stay away from it.
Yeah, but, you know, instead of icing yourself out, you could just check out Pico's energy saving rebates. They've got deals on Energy Star cooling equipment that actually work, and they cut down your bills.
Hold on. So no more ice?
Unless it's an ice cold beer, Devon, we don't need to talk about ice.
Ah, that makes a lot of sense.
So everybody just head to pico.com/ways to save. They've got tips for everything. Heating, cooling, lighting, you name it. Don't resort to ice like my friend Devon over here.
Welcome back to the PHLY 60s.
Look at that
podcast.
outfit change.
Look at that. Fast. It's like a concert, man. You just backstage, quick change right there here at PHLY. Welcome back to the show presented by Rothman Orthopedics. Check out rothmanortho.com/PHLY. When you look at the Quentin Grimes situation, Kyle, and you look at the fact that things could change in-house with the players, all young guys. Maxey is a staple, of course. We saw some really good things in the 23 games from Jared McCain. You hope that he's better in year number 2. VJ Edgecombe, they just spent a 3rd overall draft pick on him to be a key part of things. And if they do develop pretty quickly within that rotation, albeit smaller on the Maxey and McCain side, 6'5" guard with Edgecombe, could it be that Quentin Grimes just may not look at the situation and like it all that much because of where he sees the organization going as far as that?
I don't think that would be a impossible read on the situation, right? Like that would be part of the reason you'd say, I want a lot of money because I know that my opportunities are going to dwindle to some extent. No, I personally think that would be the wrong way to play it. And I think based on what he showed at the end of last year, I think he is certainly a confident enough player and a productive enough player. He's going to get plenty of opportunity here, right? He is the more of the established veteran, a guy who now has shown you, I think the reputation on him coming in was closer to a 3-and-D, but also has some of that on-ball equity, can attack closeouts, can drive and create for himself a little bit, maybe not as much of a playmaker. And then you add what we saw last year, like sure, there was some fluky, like he shot the ball insanely well, right? Yeah. To a degree that he's just not going to over the course of, an 82 game season and in the years ahead. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't like they were, it's not like he was hitting like falling out of bounds shots every other, like a lot of it was they're running the offense through him and he got into a great groove and just played well, the offense ran well through him too. It was not just Quentin Grimes' black hole show either, which that lends you some hope that, hey, he comes back this year with the other guys, with the reinforcements and McCain healthy and Maxey alongside him. Like you can get into a whole bunch of stuff and get Maxey off the ball, get McCain off the ball, tap into his on-ball production that we saw last year. Like, he is a good fit with these guys. The rest of the roster, specifically the lack of power forwards, is a problem, but that's not because of anything Quentin Grimes did. That's other roster decisions, right? So maybe he's looking at it as I see opportunities shrinking somewhat, and I need to get a lot of money right now. But I don't like my sense from asking around is not that it's not like the Sixers are coming in like, hey, we're offering you $36 million over 4 years. Like from my sense, I think he's getting fair or fair-ish offers. I just think what he thinks his price tag is pretty far removed from that at the moment.
Yeah, if he has uncertainty over his role, then I think it greatly behooves him to get the most money he can right now. I don't think it changes the way he acts because once you sign that contract, you don't really have to worry. I mean, obviously you want your minutes, but like once you have the contract, that's your contract. Doesn't matter what team you're on.
Mm-hmm.
So like if he ends up not liking his situation, and Grimes doesn't have quite as much equity to be able to make a huge stink, but like he can make a little bit of a stink and get to where he wants to go if he ends up losing minutes to VJ and there's just not enough room in the rotation. You've got to get that money now. And, you know, I don't think he's going to go, like if the Sixers offer, let's say $17 million a year, that comes out to, I'm not even going to pretend to be able to do the math.
68
like
million,
70
right?
million-ish, like 68, 70 million, something in that range. It doesn't make sense for him to take $62 million just because a $62 million mid-level from somebody else. Like you take the most money, you deal with the problems later.
Yeah.
I think he just thinks that the most money should be way higher than it's currently being offered, and I don't think it's ever going to get there. He can sit here and hold out as long as he wants. It's not like cap space is being generated as time goes by. No, there's less available cap space by the day. He's losing leverage by the day. Like I said at the top of the show, I think he just needs probably a little bit of time to process that, and then we can have real conversations.
Well, and he saw, hey, Eric Gordon's back with the team. My role's really going to start shrinking now.
It should.
That was a joke, just for anybody who's just
shouldn't. But but yeah, man. I mean, and I asked that question just because there's a lot of stuff. To your point of having to process things, that's a lot of stuff to process over how he's going to be used.
Free agency is a very fast-moving period.
It is.
Too. It's just everything changes.
Yeah, everything changes, and maybe he thought Nickeil Alexander-Walker was going to get a little more money, and he was going to be able to use that off of something. Maybe he thought Karis LeVert was going to be able to use that money off of something. Maybe he even thought, while Detroit's stuff has changed, we also know that there was another shooting guard out there that was supposed to be a big offseason free agent, but he got himself in some.
Talking about Mr. Beasley?
Yes. So
boy, was there a hell of a story on him yesterday.
Yeah.
From the Detroit News on his various alleged debts.
Those numbers changed. And then they dried up pretty quickly. So that's where, as Derek said, you got to process a lot of this stuff pretty quickly and coming to grips with that. But my point yesterday with Derek and now with Kyle, as we all agree, man, you bet on yourself once. Don't do it again. You have the Dennis Schroeder stuff. You have the Nerlens Noel things. You got through this season healthy. Also, you don't want to risk that again and be right back in the position that you were before, where they are only offering you only for 36 or 38, and you feel like you're being lowballed on that. The numbers seem like they're the pretty good average right there for him to take that deal. So I would say I hope it comes pretty quickly here, that he comes to grips with it and he gets himself in the spot, because here we are again where a player is looking at where if they're a playoff team, my friend, you're going to be playing on a playoff team and you're going to be playing some real minutes for that playoff team, that maybe someone looks at you even in this spot with that number that they feel like, you know what, they do have a lot of guards. Let me go and try to get him off of that team. He doesn't fit that. That number then carries over to whatever team he is. He has a player option in year 4, and he decides what he wants to do. And maybe he hits free agency quicker and he gets back on the market again and shows his value by approaching it that way. So That's just where I sit with that.
We are getting a bunch of questions, and I think all of us have gotten these questions the last couple of days. Like, could they be working out a sign and trade somewhere? Like, I don't think it's impossible that Grimes's camp would like at least try to go to other teams and say, hey, what would you be willing to give him? And you come back to the Sixers with that. I don't think a sign and trade really does much for the Sixers unless there's some other supplement or connected move to that like they're all of a sudden turning that into a bigger parlay, right? Like, so if they were to get some kind of pick for Grimes, that you would take that and some other pick and other contracts and turn that into like a real guy. But generally, when you see sign and trades, albeit it's a little different in restricted free agency just because they have the matching rights, like you guys see what the return is on sign and trades. It's like a second round pick. Yeah. It's like you are not getting generally anything meaningful in those deals. So the idea that they would like take a guy that they value, maybe not value at the level that him and his agent value him right now, but they value Quentin Grimes a good bit, and flip that into, hey, we get a second round pick in like 2027, or even if it's a couple of those, that doesn't do anything for this team. It opens up minutes for, McCain and Edgecombe, but you can open up minutes for them by simply playing them as much as you want them to. So if they do, it's not impossible that they would do some kind of sign and trade, but it would require some other stuff being in place that we just really haven't heard much about up to this point.
No, if a sign and trade comes into play, it's not because, like, I think some people are like, well, maybe Daryl should, seek out a sign and trade so you can balance the roster a little bit. I don't think that's what would happen, in large part because you just do almost never get equal value on a sign and trade. If a sign and trade happens, it's because Quentin Grimes' camp is canvassing the league for somebody who would, give him that kind of a contract. In order to facilitate that, you would have to do a sign and trade. So no, I don't think this is like Daryl trying to balance out the roster with a sign and trade, because that's an unrealistic proposition.
Brian Pumper in the chat says, let's sign more guards. Well, my friend, on the other side,
they brought another one back,
a name
baby.
That's a veteran sharpshooter that is back. Kyle brought up his name. We'll talk about him on the other side extensively. And we'll get Kyle's thoughts on a few moves by the Sixers overall, since he was off yesterday at the practice facility and writing stories and talking to the players. We'll get Kyle's thoughts on the show here of a few more moves that directly impact the Sixers, and we'll do that. It's the Sixers, PHLY Sixers Free Agency Frenzy Show, presented by Rothman Orthopedics, right here on a Wednesday. Still quiet on the Quentin Grimes front. We're talking about it here today.
All right, and guys, just like your favorite team needs a home court advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empire Tay can help you get it. Empire Tay has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. We've all been to some of those big box stores, and while they might have a flooring department, the person that actually helps you with the flooring may have been doing sinks yesterday and could be stocking light bulbs tomorrow. Just don't really know what they know. Empire Tay lives and breathes flooring, and they'll be with you every step of the way. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home. You pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space so you can see how it looks with your furniture and in your house. You get precise measurements taken and have all of your questions answered so there are no surprises. With Empire Tay, you get clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing, plus you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. PHLY listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code PHLY. You heard that right, a $350 discount with code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details.
And gang, for the past 30 years, Golden Nugget Jewelers has operated out of the very same location in the heart of Philadelphia. Customers from across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, even Baltimore and New York City have come to Golden Nugget Jewelers to find the perfect engagement ring or wedding band. They have a highly trained staff. They're dedicated to providing a personalized shopping experience. It's really stressful and frankly overwhelming to try to shop for something like an engagement ring, right? It's going to be an expensive purchase. It's something that is going to have a lot of sentimental value. You want to make sure you're getting bang for your buck, that you're buying the right thing. It's not going to go out of style. It's going to fit whoever your partner is that you're trying to give this great gift to. The people at Golden Nugget Jewelers are people you can trust, people who will get you the right deal. They are a family-owned and operated business since 1987, right on Chestnut and 8th in downtown Philly. And oh, by the way, maybe you're not in the market for an engagement ring. You can also look at high-end watches, fashion jewelry, diamond necklaces, bracelets, earrings, and more. You deserve an expert and the best price at Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. Visit goldennuggetjewelry.com today to learn more.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast as the Philadelphia 76ers brought back another guard yesterday, Kyle, and that is, yes, veteran sharpshooter Eric Gordon re-signs on a 1-year deal.
Do we have an applause track? Come on, Bree.
Bree's got
I'm
it
just
done
kidding.
already. Don't even find that one. So he
If you guys couldn't tell from us not doing an emergency pod at 10 o'clock last night when the news broke, didn't feel especially urgent to talk about Eric Gordon's return to the roster.
All right, so now there are 13 players under contract on the roster for the Sixers with Eric Gordon and the 2 draft picks, VJ Edgecombe and Janai Broome signing. 13 players on the roster. And he's back, Eric Gordon. He declined the option that he had. And we can talk about what it means for the salary cap after opting out and, of course, taking the deal back, but $1 million less on the cap and all that stuff. But Eric Gordon's back. So when we talk about a room that is including Quentin Grimes as the 4 that we think are going to play, Eric Gordon is a guy with the skill set that we know as a shooter. He's guard number 5 in that room. And if you want to include players like Justin Edwards, who's a guy that can play the 2 and the 3 as a wing, the importance of some of the others, Eric Gordon returns.
He does. It seems very, very clear that this was simply, he had the player option. The team probably went to him and said, you decline it, you will get another deal. And the benefit to that, as Derek has laid out several times, including in his free agency primer at allphly.com, he makes more money now, but it counts less against the cap because of how the veterans minimum deals work. So that it was as simple as that. It's why he's still on the team. We've seen instances like this before. Montrezl Harrell was another one that happened in a previous season. If you can't tell from how we're talking about him, I don't think any of us are fired up about Eric Gordon coming back. It's nothing against him personally, but we spent all of last season basically saying no more old guys, right? And while I will give Eric Gordon this, he shot the ball really well last year. And
How
after
many teeth
that,
does he have left that we can pull?
after that wisdom tooth surgery, he looked like the greatest shooter in the history of basketball for a few weeks there. But there's basically no percentage from 3 that he could hit that would make me want to play him over any of the 4 guards that we expect to make up the majority of their rotation. So when you set that aside, it just becomes, is this guy going to be some form of a mentor to VJ Edgecombe? They have the connection from the Bahamas stint together. I think another thing, and this came up during Daryl's post-first round presser or mid-first round presser when he talked about the VJ pick. He talked some about VJ's finishing at the rim and some of the struggles that he's had there. And that Eric Gordon is actually somebody that early in his career had some similar issues there. That young Eric Gordon was a really good athlete, not at VJ's level, but a very good athlete. And some technique stuff got cleaned up, some better gathers, some things that he materially got better at, that he became a better attacker of the rim and a better offensive player because he cleaned some things up. And so I think there's at least some logic of, hey, maybe he can pass on some specific tricks of the trade that he had to pick up and pass them on to this kid. And coming from a guy that he trusts and respects because of the Bahamas stuff, maybe it means a little more. I personally don't care about, I think that's bad justification to have him on the roster. I would be full committing harder to get younger, get more athletic, more in the mold of player that they've signed otherwise. But the big thing now, and I know that it seems like he's going to be back at some point. It has felt inevitable. You absolutely can't bring Kyle Lowry
That's my
back.
Joker moment.
You cannot bring another old and even smaller guard back who you don't want to play strictly because you think he's a vet mentor to guys. You can't waste 2 roster spots on guys who, in an ideal world, you don't want to see the floor for even a minute.
I'm sure Eric Gordon or Kyle Lowry will look dashing with a polo and a clipboard.
Well, I'm sure by that dashing 77 that VJ Edgecombe is wearing, that kind of tells us, at least right now, what they're thinking for him not to be able to take the number that he wanted.
I have a deep respect for Kyle Lowry's career, but you can't roster the two of them. You can't do it.
No, and look, I understand there's some people upset about signing Eric Gordon again. We all tried to tell you for weeks, if not months, this was going to happen. You had 2 options. You could have Eric Gordon on a contract at a $3.5 million or $3.4 million cap hit, or you could have Eric Gordon on a roster at a $2.3 million contract. Those were your 2 options. So I think the Sixers ended up taking the best route. For that, Eric Gordon gets about $200,000 of extra money. It's a win-win, except for the fans who have to watch basketball. But those were your 2 options. 3.5, 2.3, he was going to be on the roster. But you can't compound that with giving another even older guy, even slower guy, even smaller guy, another roster spot. I do think, assuming Quentin Grimes eventually gets signed, they're at 14 roster spots. And if it's at $15 million, you'd be right about $200 million. So I'm a little bit interested in whether or not they will use that 15th roster spot. Historically, they haven't. Will they keep Rookie Council on the roster or try to use that? Because that's a non-guaranteed contract. Will they entertain using...
Go get him, Rick.
Go get another contract, maybe, if he ends up getting cut. Will they maybe entertain using that taxpayer mid-level, which will hard cap them at that $207 million second apron? Those are what we have left. But yeah, I agree. You can't... that 15th roster spot or the 14th if they end up cutting Rookie can't go to another short guard you can't play. You just can't do it. You have actual needs on this roster right now.
And like your priority 2-way guy was another guard, right? A 4-year senior who, from what we have heard, they seem like they're pretty intrigued by Hunter Salas. So like,
I would like to see
if the idea is like, hey, this was our most important 2-way guy, we jumped on the opportunity to get him the second the draft ended, right? Like, I'd rather see him than Kyle Lowry if they're in a spot where one of these deep bench guards has to play, right? So it is no disrespect to Kyle Lowry to just look at it and say, he's 39 years old, and you just can't roster these guys when you're built around 3 max contracts, right? And all these little margin moves really matter, and you have to get some form of, whether it's just upside, whether it's fits a role. It's just so hard to justify taking 2 of those precious roster spots and using them on guys that you really just don't want to play. Even if that, like, I agree that the intangible stuff matters. I agree that the vet leadership stuff, Jared McCain spoke highly of Kyle Lowry's influence on him. And certainly you pick things up from these guys that it's sometimes just easier to listen to a message from a teammate than it is a coach, right? Like, there are a lot of things that can get done by having those players. This is just not the roster and not the situation where you can afford to just effectively burn these roster spots.
Speaking of the roster and how the Sixers are built, Bernard McCoy with a super chat says the Sixers are just not built right. Trae Young, Jalen Brunson are the only small guys in their lineups. Tough decision between Maxey and McCain is looming. Just quickly on the New York side, Deuce McBride is also a small guard out there as well, just to speak honestly of their situation. But what are your thoughts?
But generally, I think that point is something we've touched on many times, right? We want to see what Maxey and McCain looks like because both of them have been, Maxey especially, just has a huge body of work at this point. But McCain was very good in his small stretch. We want to see what it looks like on the floor together. I've said on the show many times, I don't think it's a combination I trust a whole lot moving forward. And frankly, if it was something that the Sixers thought was, this is bankable, we can start these guys together and close with them together long term, you probably don't draft VJ Edgecombe in the first place, right? Because he's a good fit next to either of those guys. But it just kind of adds to that stew of you have a bunch of guards and you're going to have to sort it out later.
They also did just add Jordan Clarkson, who's not as small.
The Knicks,
but
you
he's,
mean.
Yeah. But he's small.
Yeah, right. Haidar also with the super chat, speaking about Quentin Grimes, honestly feels like the ideal Quentin Grimes scenario outcome is him signing for 15 to 20-ish and then being traded on that contract.
And look, that's part of the benefit of this contract. That they don't have a lot of matching salary right now. You've got Kelly, you've got Drummond. That's only about $12 million. Having another significant $15, $17 million contract who you can use as salary matching, but also has positive trade value and is a young, just turned 25. That's a big thing. You can't let someone like that walk. Like, you need that as not only on the court, especially early on, maybe as you're letting everyone get acclimated, but you can't let that trade chip and that trade asset walk as well.
All right, let's get to some things that also happened at Summer League practice and talk about that a little bit. Kyle, yesterday you were at the first day of practice, had a chance to speak to VJ Edgecombe and also Hunter Salas as well. Those were the two that spoke, as well as TJ DeLeo, the head coach of the Summer Sixers this summer. It'd be cool to watch that.
Yeah, good for him, by the way. That was we did not learn about that until recently. So, guy who was an intern here and survived some coaching changes, getting the Summer League nod. So that was
good for him. So what were your takeaways? You did write about it, and we mentioned it at the top of the show at allphly.com. We'll get to Derek's day 2 thoughts, but your thoughts on day 1.
So, a couple main things. And the first one was something that we've discussed leading into this week, but not really on the show as much. It does seem like VJ is going to get some real opportunities to play point, at least in Summer League, right? And I think certainly the deck was cleared for him when they said, hey, Jared McCain is not going to be on the Summer League roster. The first place my brain went was point VJ time, baby, because you just don't have justification to say, and this is no disrespect to Hunter, it's no disrespect to Jalen Hood-Scafino or Judah Mintz, but there is a best guard in this group, and it's VJ Edgecombe. And so what they're going to do with him in Summer League, I imagine, is just try him in all different stuff, right? And TJ yesterday effectively said, we're going to play really fast. So sometimes that's going to mean he's running the wing and he's attacking second side and doing stuff like that. Other times that means he's bringing the ball up and we're going to flow into some stuff and he'll play out of that. So it's not as binary as VJ's the one for all of Utah and Las Vegas. Number one, that's not how basketball works.
Yep.
Number two, it's just not how I think they're going to develop him. But VJ then also, after that, talked pretty forcefully, was asked, what are you focused on? Or what do you want to develop? And immediately said, being a better point guard, just being a point guard, period, working on those skills, and that is front of mind for him this summer. And that lines up with some stuff we heard during the pre-draft process, that this is a kid who has talked about himself kind of wanting to at least try to play point guard, right? To develop those skills. We've seen his passing come quite a long way over the last couple of years. That, I think, is something that has gone not under discussed by us, but I think some fans have maybe, it's not the sexy thing, right? Oh, he's a 3 assist a game guy. He's not Chris Paul coming into the league. He's not one of these, but his passing has been very good the last couple of years, and it helps them get more playmaking on the floor. Why not in this setting see if he can be, I don't want to say floor general, but someone who, makes all the passes around the floor and does all that. So that was I think my biggest takeaway from day one. And then got to talk to Hunter. It seems like a nice kid, good head on his shoulders, was pretty transparent about last year at Wake. There's just a lot of responsibility on him. Wants to come into Summer League, show that he's a more consistent defender, show that he can be a consistent shooter. Seems like his head is in the right place for a guy who's going to have to come in and play a role if he gets an opportunity. I'm just excited to see these guys on the floor in Summer League. They got a few good guards. They got Bona going. Edwards will be there. I even like the mix of the bigs that they're bringing. We know what Bona can do. The rim running, the athleticism, all that. They brought back my guy, Keve Aluma, who I really enjoyed during last Summer League. Alex Reese will be on the team, so he brings more of that stretch big. So if they want to open up the floor and allow VJ to run some pick and pop stuff from the top of the key, that option's open to you. So I think that's what I kind of like about, looking at the roster and thinking about it some more. It seems like you never go into it, and some people are like, oh, they're going to go undefeated in Summer League. And then you actually watch them play, and it's like, there's a reason most of these guys are in Summer League. Who knows? But I think the roster makes some sense for like what you want to accomplish with VJ, Justin, and Adem specifically.
And you had day 2.
Yeah,
today.
day 2 was a little bit the same. There was a little bit of VJ playing point guard talk. And certainly I think that will be a focus. It's the guy you have to develop the most, and it's a skill that if he develops, it can unlock him as a prospect. So, of course, in a no-stakes environment, you are going to try that out, especially when he is far and away the best guard on the roster. We talked to Justin and Janai, and, we had just spoken to both of them pretty recently, so they didn't have all that much new in that regard. But, certainly Justin talking about being, just it being his second year, and you don't have to learn everything from the terminology to just the layout of the arena to what all the plays are and what you need to do. So it's just a lot easier to acclimate. And we talked about that a lot last year, especially with McCain. McCain was the one who was struggling, and I think we try to be like, all right, it's not a huge deal, and it's something to keep in mind as we overreact to the inevitable off game that some of your key prospects are going to have. It is a pretty big transition for them. They're trying to absorb and learn a lot. And Justin spoke a little bit about that as well. And then I spent a decent amount of time watching Adem Bona shoot corner threes. And you don't want to read absolutely anything into
Serge
it.
Ibaka.
We did get a super chat the other day about him being Serge Ibaka. You don't want to read anything into it. We've all been doing this long enough to know that all of these NBA players can shoot lights out in an open gym. But I am sort of intrigued by Adem Bona trying to extend his range. And he looked relatively comfortable with the form in an open gym and a pressure-free environment.
He shot those corner threes with Broom, didn't he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Outside of that, Janai was talking a little bit about just, how great the coaching staff is, the platitudes you sort of expect for a new kid. We will have all of those interviews from day 2 up on the YouTube eventually, so check that out. But not too many news and notes, I would say.
And just one thing off the Edwards piece that I'm sure we'll get into while we're in Las Vegas next week, but he is going to have that, outside of VJ Edgecombe, he has the Ricky Council target from last summer that you were there. You just talked about everything with not having to worry about the terminology, the arena, the layout of everything. He's the one that, while we were disappointed a little bit in what he showed last summer,
he struggled last summer.
That this summer, after what he did his rookie season, getting the standard contract and then getting the extension on top of that, that he is the one that we are looking at and saying, maybe 3 games out in Vegas, and then you wrap it up, you'll be done, and we'll
maybe 2,
maybe
if it's
2.
good enough.
Yeah, so he's got that Ricky Council thing for the Summer League like last year. And if you, as you talk, Kyle day 1, Derek day 2, all of that at allphly.com. Also, don't forget, if you want to hear a little bit more just simply from the coach, his coach at Baylor, Scott Drew joined us 2 weeks ago ahead of the draft and talked about and gave us a little bit of a teaser of exactly that, Point VJ. And if you missed that conversation with Scott Drew, that is on our YouTube page. Once again, go check that out. Kyle, quick Sixer ones, quick thoughts for you, and then we'll get to our news and notes. Gershon Yabusele signing the 1-year deal with the 2-year deal with the New York Knicks. Thank you. And then the Trenton Watford, just to give a little bit more, since you jumped in a little bit later on our emergency podcast on Monday night. Yabusele and Trenton Watford.
So Watford, I at least got to talk about, so I'll keep that brief. I like his skill set. I don't think he's a guy that solves some of the more pressing needs, like the athleticism and rebounding I think they probably need at the 4. But if we talked about it many times last year, this team has lacked high field players, has lacked playmaking, getting passing out of that spot. I think he's a very good passer. I think he's a good transition guy, like a grab and go, can either push it himself, looks for the hit-ahead pass. Like, I think he's going to help guys like VJ, like Tyrese, like they're younger guys, help spring them on some of these breaks. So I like him. I'd like him as, he'll probably be like a back of the rotation type player, but on a minimum deal, I think he's shown improvement for a year and a half, 2 years now after having a bunch of question marks coming into the league. So like that one. With Yabu, I just think it's as simple as they simply felt they could not risk offering him that deal and getting to the table with him and getting an agreement, and then ultimately wherever the number fell with Grimes, you might have priced yourself out of that, right? Like Derek has written and talked about the restrictions they have to deal with the aprons. Once you have that taxpayer mid-level, that triggers a hard stop for you, a hard cap. So they just couldn't risk it, or felt that they couldn't risk it based on where things were at with Grimes. And I don't blame Yabu for saying, well, I'm not going to wait around until this situation resolves, watch all the cap space dry up and say, okay, what are the options that are left, right? Would you have liked him to go somewhere that's not the New York Knicks, that's not like a direct rival to you in terms of fighting in the East and all that? Sure, but I don't begrudge him for saying, I'm not going to sit on my hands for an indefinite period of time to open free agency. He looked at it and said, I'm going to do what's best for me. And I always will respect guys who take that approach. I will also say, I said on the show earlier in the week, I think that his contributions last year were a little overrated, and that he is someone that I think was going to be a tougher fit than people think about on a winning team. It was at least like, hey, we have to see this on a team that has real expectations, right? What is his role? What does he do next to the big star players? Theoretically, he felt like a fit, but came with some question marks. So, great guy. Loved dealing with him, interacting with him, covering him. Was a great story that he came back from overseas and had this successful year. But now he's a Knick. So, screw him.
Exactly what we were saying. Some people were laying out there after the news dropped yesterday. So let's get to some quick news and notes, Bree. Speaking of the Knicks, it appears, according to Shams, that after a second interview, that Mike Brown, longtime NBA head coach, is going to take over for Tom Thibodeau, and he's going to be the new New York Knicks head coach. Frankly, a little surprised that he got another head coaching opportunity with a team, especially that was right there on the doorstep of the NBA Finals. So we'll see what Mike Brown does. I'd imagine they're going to keep a lot of their coaching staff that was intact from the Thibodeau era. So we'll see how that plays out. And then the most important coaching news of the day now, after Mike Brown, let's throw this one up there, Bree. The Utah Jazz.
Look who it is. Omar Cooper will be a guest coach for the Utah Jazz at Summer League. For anyone playing catch-up, Omar Cooper, the agent of Ace Bailey. Well, sort of agent. He's not a certified agent, but he's effectively
manager. I don't know what
whatever
you call him.
handler. Yeah, whatever term you want to use. He is now on the Summer League coaching staff for the Utah Jazz.
I like VJ. I like VJ a lot.
I'm going to just continue to say it. We did try to give you guys some warnings and intel, and hey, here's how things are looking right now. Here's some of this is a little suspect.
I didn't even see this, man.
Come on, man.
Oh, man.
Absolute clown show.
Yeah.
And honestly, I can't believe that. I get that it's Utah. I can't, and like you have to give some concessions sometimes. I can't believe Danny Ainge is just rolling over like this.
Yeah.
The whole Ainge family rolling over like this.
That's where I went first. It was more of, all right,
come on, man.
It's the Ace part of it, but it was also, Danny Ainge is Danny Ainge. He doesn't do stuff like this. And when you guys said that to me as we were getting ready to start the show, I was like, what? Danny Ainge is not going for that. But it was reported by Tony Jones, who's out there and covers the Jazz. So
there have since been other reports. So this must have been something that I guess the Jazz's roster got sent out, and this must have popped up for all the Jazz beat writers because who, buddy?
Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. So the joke that came out earlier about Quentin Grimes, Omar Cooper is his agent, not even close.
No.
Not even close.
Grimes' agent isn't going to join Nick Nurse's coaching staff next year. Next year, I feel pretty confident about that.
Not at all. Quick alert that we are going to overtime. AllPHLY.com to continue with our show for our goodbyes. So thanks on the television side. Join us at AllPHLY.com Omar Cooper, a
Come on,
guest
bro.
coach on the staff. Is it just for the Salt Lake City Summer League, or is it?
That's a good
also-
question. So we haven't gotten clarity on that. This news came in
Yeah.
like right as
Yeah,
we
have
were
you
about
seen
to
anything
start.
else?
No, Tony just reported for the summer league. He didn't say.
Wow,
He didn't say which one.
that could stretch out the. He might be too busy for Vegas though.
And
I don't know.
He did say a guest coach, so he didn't.
I don't know what that means.
We don't know exactly what his role is.
This is
Nobody
like
knows
the
what
other
it means.
night
It's-
when
it's
Sean
like
sent
literally never
3
happened.
tweets trying to
Yeah.
say something other than
Let me clarify
Cole
my
Anthony
previous
got
tweet.
waived.
Yeah.
He's either coaching or he's not.
Yeah, and to what extent?
If
is
I
he
see him
coaching?
out there with the clipboard, I'm gonna lose.
Is he
it.
like TJ DeLeo coaching, or is he just on the bench? I don't know. Guest coach. Guest.
Come on, man.
Hey, remember we had Justin Edwards on. He was coaching at the celebrity game for the Roost Picnic. Is it like that? Where, hey, you go sub yourself in. Ace, you get all 40 minutes. You're good. And then everybody else, you figure it out. So we'll monitor that.
We had a.
So we're going to see that for game 1 on Saturday against
I
the
am not going to
Sixers.
name names. So when I was real young, we still retell this story in my friend group to this day. There was this kid who was like a man child. This is back when we were playing like rec league basketball, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we're like 10 years old or 11 years old. And this kid was a lot bigger and more athletic than a lot of us at that age. But it was in a rec league, and there were rules around.
Everybody has to play.
Everyone's got to play a certain amount. Like I think it was like you got to play at least 2 quarters
Yeah.
or a certain amount of minutes or whatever. So we get to the playoffs in this rec league. It wasn't even. I was not in this game. I was watching my buddy. We were the next team to play. So this kid has used up all his minutes, right? And the coach's son had to play in overtime of this playoff game because he had not played enough yet. And I swear to you, this is true. The coach made his son fake an injury so that they could bring in a 10 or 11-year-old like man child in to win the game. And I'm just picturing Omar Cooper now stepping into those shoes like, gotta get Ace back
No
in
doubt.
that game, brother.
No doubt. Oh, man. Unbelievable stuff.
That kid's name it's like a one. You say his last name, that's the only thing I think of is him rolling around, writhing on the ground, grabbing his ankle, and the other kid like taking off the warm up and jogs to the scorer's table. Just unbelievable.
Hey, Martian has a great one in the chat. Omar Cooper is Birdie from above the rim. He's Tupac.
Dude, I hope not, because have you seen the end of that movie? How it ends
Yeah,
for
he's not that
Birdie?
bad. Oh, man.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. By the way, I also saw somebody bring up Jack Clark, who's on the Sixers Summer League roster. We talked to Jack
We
on the
did.
show before the draft and his whole, workout situation and all that. I guess we could say it now. We knew he was about to work out the next day for the
We
Sixers.
did.
And of course, out of respect, we didn't bring that up. So we obviously want to see Jack do well in summer league. So we'll
And
see
look,
how
I
it
think,
plays out.
like,
did you see
he's-
Jack yesterday? Did you guys see him today?
Does Jack have anyone he wants to coach? Maybe he can.
Maybe Devon can be a guest.
Can we
I'll
get
be a guest coach.
in Utah.
Be a
Here's the
guest
thing
coach.
about Jack. Like, he will do some things that
He's
Sixers
6'9".
fans want. He's
Yeah.
like 6'9", 6'10", and rebounds. Like, rebounding is kind of his thing.
And
right?
unselfish, so he'll do the
Yeah.
right things
So,
while he's out there on the floor.
I think
so.
people will probably enjoy watching him in
Yeah.
summer league.
So go check out our conversation with Jack pre-draft and all of that. All right. Let's get back to it. And number one, tomorrow, you guys will both be for the late practice at the facility.
I believe so.
Yeah.
So it'll be myself and Rich tomorrow with Bree. So Rich and I will be here with Bree tomorrow at 3 p.m. And Derek and Kyle will check in. We'll see what's going on from their tweets and all from the complex, from the training facility. We'll do that. We have some super chats that we still have to get through here, and then we'll get to our roll call. So we have Riaz saying, where do you see the Sixers in this weak Eastern Conference? Is this a wide array of outcomes go from 1 to play-in? Is this that type of team if healthy?
Yes.
Anything is on
You
the
could
board.
look up volatile in the dictionary. It has a picture of this roster.
I
Yes.
don't know about putting them 1 just because we have to see it again. We never got a
Who
chance
would
to
be
see.
one?
Cleveland.
Yeah.
I would
No,
put
they'll
Cleveland.
be one.
Yeah, I put Cleveland 1, and then from there on, New York.
I mean,
I think
New York, Milwaukee might be like a 3 seed.
Orlando.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
The Hawks are going to be
Hawks
probably
are
top
gonna be
four threat. They're at least a threat to be a top 4
I agree
seed.
with that. I think Orlando is back in that mix for a top 4 seed. So I would say beyond 1 or 2, I would say maybe 3 on out. My opinion, 3 on out for the Sixers.
Yeah.
Just like it's all health. That's their whole thing,
100%.
right? I don't doubt the talent.
No, not at all.
It's just
But
I'm
I
not
can't-
going into another
can't
year like,
uplift-
man,
yeah.
expecting MVP Joel. Like I can't do it.
That's
I'm not
why.
gonna do it.
And I'm probably stretching it at 3 just because we did not see it. So I have no idea. I don't know what Joel is going to look like. Don't know what Paul George is going to look like. I don't know that Quentin Grimes is going to be on this basketball team. So I don't know. But right now, I would say 3 on down as far as
Here's
that
what I would
goes.
say. I feel the only thing I feel confident in, Riaz, is we'll have more fun watching them next year because they just will have more guys that everyone will care about watching, not just for what does it mean this year. It's what is this forming for the future? What does this look like moving into 26 and 27 and 28? Like that to me is the material change. It's not that we're all like, oh, they're locked in contenders coming in.
No. Can't say that anymore.
Nope.
We need to see it. You got to show us. Need to see it. Sanj with the late one before we get to Pump. What VJ stat line versus Ace on Saturday would shut up Brian Pumper? What Ace stat line is going to cause you to mute the chat to avoid Pump? We're not muting
We're going to
Pump.
have to mute him regardless, I think. It doesn't matter. Because he could shoot 6 for 18, but if he has like one more point than VJ, it'll be. I've said from the very beginning, there is no doubt in my mind Aces will have probably the best summer league game of anyone who's not named Cooper Flag.
Yeah.
But he's also
at
gonna
some
have-
point this year.
he's gonna
he
have
will
a 2
also
for
have 100
18.
horrible shots.
Yeah, he's going to have one of those.
But the runway is there for him.
Honestly, no matter what direction it goes, rational basketball fans, so I'm excluding Brian Pumper from this, should ignore the results.
First year summer league matters almost not
Yes.
at all. Now, when guys come back because they had a up and down year or whatever,
Justin
and then
Edwards.
they still don't look very good in
Yes.
year 2, that's when you say, "Ooh, it's panic."
When
time."
you've played NBA basketball and you can't have a good summer league, that's a concern.
yeah, so that's why we want to see big time Justin Edwards,
Yep.
Adem Bona to a lesser extent. Like, want to see him show out.
Sure.
Those are the guys who are like, they got to come get their business done early and then go sit on the bench.
How many fake dribble handoff conversion dunks at the rim is
I want to
Dembona
see at
gonna
least
execute?
5.
He's
I
going
wanna
to
see at
execute
least 5.
Yes, he's going to execute quite a few of those against those summer league bigs out there. All right, let's get to the Pump It Up. Brian Pumper, super chat of the day. Team looking like some hot garbage. Unfortunately, we got a strike going on in Philadelphia right now for trash, too. That's not great. I like this dude, Daryl Morey, really going to run this back with these same scrubs. Janai as the only saving grace.
I still, 2 things, but I can't believe he's a Janai guy. I just, like, that just doesn't seem like the
But
archetype. of
Janai
player.
was a scorer at Auburn. He was a scorer.
No, I get it, but like,
So even as a big, he still fits that profile of that guy can fill
it
up.
still
fill up the-
surprises me. It still really
I
surprises
will
me.
Yeah.
give everyone an advance warning. There is a 0.0% chance I am watching this game live on Saturday, on July 5th, Saturday
night.
That ain't happening. If you can bet on that somewhere at Bet365 or one of our other partners, bet on Kyle Neubeck not watching Sixers Jazz this
You
Saturday.
hear that, Bet365?
live during the game.
Make that a profit boost for Saturday night.
But Pumper,
Bet every dollar you have in your name. I will not be watching that game
you hear that, Malik?
until the next day.
We're giving Malik Beasley advice.
I'm
right.
trying to get him out of trouble, man.
We tried to tell you this was going to be a quiet offseason with a mostly run it back. Like, I think it was pretty obvious coming in.
Yeah.
You got your draft pick. Hopefully bring Quentin Grimes back. I didn't expect this roster to be overhauled.
Yeah. All right, let's get to it. Let's get ready to close things down here. On this Wednesday, it's time to say goodbye to everybody with a roll call on Wednesday.
All right, everybody. Bree, can you search this for me real quick? We had a viewer from the Philippines today. who said hello. I think you should just be able to search Philippines somewhere in the, I think it might have been, yeah, there you go. Jorge.
Oh, love it.
Checking in from, is that Davao City in the Philippines? Fan of the Sixers, my idol, Paul George. Thank you, Jorge.
Thank you, Jorge.
For checking in. I always love seeing new people from
Special shout out.
Places all over the world. We love our friends like Haidar in Iceland. Papa's is in the UK, I believe. We got one of our Martys. Is it Marty Bones? I think is either New Zealand or Australia.
I think it's New Zealand. Yeah.
Is it New Zealand?
So I always love, we had the Prince of Porto for a long time.
Wow, yeah.
Michael B. I love seeing our people all over the world still keeping close to the Sixers, but also keeping close to us. But thank you to everyone else as well, obviously. Your contributions to the show are no less important. Thank you to Martian Lynch. Thank you to Money Mar.
What up, Mar?
To X-Man, to Bootzilla.
Boots!
To Vincent. To Eugene Ross, who's trying to sneak in one of our suitcases to go to Vegas. And I had to break the news to him. I'm a carry-on guy. I'm a light packer.
They charge you for those bags, man.
I stay light. Even when I go overseas, if I'm not overseas for like 2 weeks, that's carry-on, baby. I'll smush it in there. I'll do some laundry. I don't need to be carrying stuff around.
I was trying to figure out the duffel bag, man.
You could fit in with Derek's drone.
I'm going to end up with 3 bags going down.
Mellow 3-point. Jeffrey Stewart. Duck Holiday. Leading a win.
What up, Lee?
Who, by the way, did message me about Yang Gang on the night of the draft. Was very excited. At least I'm pretty sure that was Lee. If not, it was another Lee who just so happened to DM me. I'm assuming it was that one. Taryn's Knights. What up?
What up, Terrence?
My girl Winona. What's up to Jess?
Hey, Nona. Hey, Jess.
DC Marley. By the way, we got back to the regular usernames.
Yeah,
yesterday.
It happened on the emergency pod.
YouTube.
Oh, it did?
2 days ago.
Okay.
Whatever YouTube is doing.
Yeah, I saw Val in there earlier, too, so we don't miss
Did see
Val.
Val. What's up to Val? Sanj with a super chat. Be Pump. Pump it up.
Pump it up.
With a super chat. Riaz with a super chat. Thank you to Mom's grandchildren. What's
Hello.
up to Mom?
Hey, Mom.
Checking in. SB Cole, Lost Sleep TV. AA Ron.
What up, Aaron?
Jesse Bond. Derek Bodner. Who's that guy? Marcus Blackstock. Say what?
Say what?
Who said something funny earlier and now I'm
He
forgetting
said
what
something funny yesterday, too.
You better love somebody.
Love somebody. Love somebody.
Yeah. Lee said Yang got stolen from us.
At 35, it would have been nice. 16, not so
I really thought he was going to be there at 35,
I
too.
thought so too. Thank you to Kareem,
Tehran's.
who was a little upset with you calling Eric Gordon a sharpshooter, I think.
Hey, man. Hey, this is just how we do things on the show. Yeah, it's just how
Thanks,
it goes.
everybody, for checking in. I love you
Tehran's
all.
Ned says, Omar coming.
Man,
That's
great
wild.
show.
Yes, he is, Utah.
Great show.
He's on the way.
I hope, I'm not going to spoil anything. Anyway, thank you for watching and being with us, everybody. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. And hit that thumbs up button to say thank you to super producer Bree.
Thank you, Bree.
Our president of basketball operations, for making everything work. I want to get it out of the way because I won't be on the show tomorrow. I'll be at practice, and Devon and I believe Rich will be holding it down. Derek will be at practice as well. Have a happy 4th of July weekend, everybody. Enjoy the holiday with your loved ones, whatever you're doing, going to the beach, hanging out at the house, staying in the city. I don't know what you're doing.
Well, we'll be back. Yeah.
But be safe, be smart, no drinking and driving. Don't be lighting off fireworks and, hurting yourselves or others. Be careful out there and have a good time. We'll be back tomorrow as a show at 3:00.
And Friday.
And Friday in a different capacity. But I won't see you live for a little bit. So goodbye. Have fun. See you tomorrow. Take care.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.